Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Greg Stanton, Mayor of the City of Phoenix, and I want to thank our team that is up here at the table, Councilman Danny Valenzuela, who represents the Drake Senior Center and Community Center here, Councilman Felda Williams, whose constituents hang out here a lot, so you're lucky this center has two great council members that represent most of the people that benefit from these services. Our city manager is to my right, Ed Zerker. Before we begin public testimony on the city manager's proposed 2018-19 budget, we have two short videos. The first video is a general overview of the structure of the city budget. So kind of a 5-minute big picture video of where we get our money from and where it generally goes to. And then I'll ask the two council members that are here if they have any short statement before we begin the specific proposed 18-19 budget. The reason why we're doing this is in years past, as transparent as we try to be in these budget processes and talk about our individual budget, some people felt like they needed even greater context of how our budget operates at the City of Phoenix. And so we wanted to provide that context. And so we provided this video so that everyone can better understand how we put together City of Phoenix budget. So without further ado, we'll watch the video, a couple quick statements from our council members that are here, then we'll watch the proposed 18-19 budget, and then we'll begin to take public testimony at today's budget hearing. It should be noted that we're doing, if you're a first time or haven't gone to a lot of these budget hearings, this is part of a process that we do all over the City of Phoenix. I don't know how many we're doing this year, but usually we do like close to 20 budget hearings. And then we take that input, and ultimately the city manager will recommend a revised budget based upon the testimony that we hear, and ultimately myself and the council members will vote on this budget in May. So without further ado, the big picture video, and then we'll hear from the council members, and then video on 18-19 proposed budget. Thank you.
Your budget, because it pays for services that everyone needs, and interesting. Let's talk about the City of Phoenix budget. But wait, don't go anywhere. We're gonna make this quick and interesting. Did you know that last year, 1.5 tons of broccoli were served at Phoenix senior centers? And city vehicles like these garbage trucks traveled 2.9 million miles. That's equal to 119 times around the earth. Can't forget about our furry friends, the city's trained police and fire dogs. Their job is to sniff out the bad guys and find evidence. Last year, they ate 24,000 pounds of food to stay strong. So what does any of this have to do with the city budget? Everything. The Phoenix budget is around $4 billion and pays for lots of services that make your life better, safer, and more convenient. It's a huge effort made up of lots of smaller pieces, the programs and people that it takes to get the job done. So how those pieces fit together, the people, the buildings, the vehicles, and equipment, gets us to the total city budget. Explaining how it works isn't always easy. Managing every item in a budget with over 400 different services provided by over 14,000 employees is a year-round project, one we work on every day. And it's you, the residents of Phoenix, who we have to thank for giving us a budget to balance. The bottom line is that we get revenue, taxes and fees for specific services and grants that we spend on the cost of services. That's city employees, buildings, equipment, contracts, and supplies. Here's how we get revenue to pay for important city services. For example, when you eat at a restaurant, shop in a store, fill up the tank, fly out of Sky Harbor, or pay your property taxes or your water and trash bill. That all helps to pay for things like fire and police, paving roads, new bike lanes, more library books, street lights, clean water, parks and trails, just to name a few. To provide these important services, we divide our work and track our costs through 36 city departments and functions, like police, fire, parks, libraries, neighborhood services, water and aviation, and our support services like the city clerk, human resources, finance, budget, and information technology departments. Like clockwork, every spring, departments look at what it takes to provide the services for the year. Did employees leave, or did new staff join the team? Are there needed or unplanned building or equipment repairs? What will broccoli cost next year? Are there new projects that need to be considered? Okay, we talked about broccoli. Now let's talk about pie. Every department gets a slice, or at least a sliver of the pie. And most departments, like police, fire, libraries, parks, neighborhood services, and human services, are supported by the general fund. It's a pot of money that comes from these areas: general sales and property taxes, revenue distributed by the state from income, state sales and vehicle taxes, and some fines and fees. The general fund is a little less than a third of the entire budget because it pays for services that everyone needs, like public safety, senior and youth programs, neighborhoods and libraries. It's the part that gets the most of the public's attention. Now, check out this slice. It's a little more than a third, and it's called enterprise funds. Think business revenue. This slice is from those departments that only charge the people who use their services directly. For example, airlines and passengers at the airport, conventioneers, water and sewer users, and customers who pay for trash pickup and recycling. And the last slice is called special revenue funds. That's the last third of the budget. This is funding that comes from taxes dedicated for a special purpose. For example, Phoenix Parks and Preserves, Transportation 2050 for streets and transit, and the special dedicated sales taxes for police and fire hiring. Now, to get the budget to the next step, first we take a look at what we think it'll cost to provide our services next year, looking at salaries and benefits for the employees in each area. That's about 80% of our general fund budget, as well as other costs like replacing equipment and paying for gas, electricity, computers, and supplies. Then we estimate how much revenue we will take in through taxes, fees, and grants. By law, we have to make the revenue and expenses match. That's called a balanced budget. If there's not enough, we ask how to cut back. But if there's more revenue than expenses, we ask how it should be spent. It's the same process for general funds, enterprise funds, and special revenue funds. That asking is called the trial budget. It's a list of proposals from the city manager and staff based on what they have heard from the city council and the community. It's a trial budget because it's not final. It's a starting place to hear from you. The trial budget is discussed with the city council, and then we come to you. Every resident of Phoenix, yes, all 1.6 million of you, are invited to tell us what you think. You can attend a meeting and give your feedback there, or read the trial budget online and give feedback that way. Based on what you tell us, the budget is revised and presented to the city council for a second round of discussion and feedback. And then the final budget is developed and presented for the city council to formally adopt. That means when July 1st rolls around, broccoli can be served and trucks can roll through the city. Departments know how much funding they have. Remember the pie? But they have to live within their means and use only the slice they've been given. What happens next? A new year of work. The budget process for the following year starts, and we do it all again. Managing and balancing the budget is a big responsibility, and we are glad to have you be part of it every year.
All right, Mr. City Manager, I'm outraged by that broccoli budget. We gotta cut it way too much. All right, just joking. And I also first want to say thank you to every single City of Phoenix employee that is here. For those of you here to provide testimony before myself and the council members and our city manager, you should know that I think just about every city department is represented here, so issues may come up that aren't directly related to the city budget, but just suggestions you may have about how to better operate our city system. We are here to listen to your ideas. In fact, in years past, we've got lots of great ideas, not just about the budget, but about city operations overall from these public budget hearings. So these are very important to do for a variety of reasons. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our two outstanding council members that are here for any just opening words before we go through the specifics of the proposed 18-19 budget. Councilman Valenzuela, this is your district.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Well, this is exciting. I think we started this process last night, if I'm not correct. And I'm proud to say for the 6th year in a row, this particular district will have as many, if not more, budget hearings than any other district. It's important. It's called opportunity. It's called empowerment, and it's something that's taken serious from the very top down and from the bottom up. It's awesome that we have City Manager Ed Zerker here, as well as Mayor Stanton, as well as our Vice Mayor, Velda Williams, and of course, I'm honored to be your council member. But you know, I was sitting there in the back of the room, and I'm taking a look. We also have the police chief, Jerry Williams, here. We have one of our fire chiefs, Wes Patterson, here. Chief Patterson was one of my recruit training officers when I was in the academy. And I've never seen the smile that he has on his face right now, I'll tell you that. I mean, that was not so prevalent in the academy. He was tough, but he made us all firefighters. So thank you for your service, Chief. Chris Mackey, one of the people that I love working with as well, our Economic Development Director, and why we have so many jobs in our city, and truly the driving force behind our diversified our economy as we continue to move toward the future. We have so many tech jobs in Phoenix now. Our economy has been diversified from real estate and retail and construction, which are all important, but among the first industries that are deeply impacted during a recession, today it's information technology and healthcare, advanced manufacturing, and Chris Mackey is, I believe, the biggest reason for that. Elizabeth Martin Parker from Clerk's office is here. Sandra Schilling from Finance. Tamara Spenley, of course, from Human Services, and I think everyone knows Tamara. We've had so many events right here out of the Helen Drake Senior Center. Thank you so much for that. Marianne Patinos from Planning, whose dad is a retired firefighter, by the way. And of course, we have Budget and Research and Public Affairs that is at every meeting. So, this is incredibly important. You know, I remember when I was a little boy, my dad reminded me that you have to get engaged. You have to be engaged, especially in the community that you live in, because it's going to grow in spite of you. And it reminded me, I was reminded of my dad's words when I first took my son. We took our son to our first parent-teacher conference, which is pretty fun. You remember those days, right? But I was, some of us have to think a little further back. I'm seeing, looking at the faces in the audience here and watching your expressions. But, you know, I was a teen parent, and the teacher was pretty surprised that our son had teen parents. And it was a nice surprise. He was so well respected, she said. And she says, you know, our children grow up in spite of us. How they grew up depends upon us. That reminded me of what my dad said when I was a kid. But every time we have a budget hearing, I think about that. We're going to pass a budget. This budget actually has a small surplus in it, which is a good thing. But we're going to pass a budget in spite of us. In spite of, you know, if no one goes to these budget hearings, and we continue to expand the number of budget hearings, not just in the district, but throughout the city. And we got to give Mayor Stanton a big, let's give him a round of applause for always continuing to lead on that. But if we go to none of these budget hearings, by law, the city manager has to bring a final budget to the council, and the council has to adopt the budget. This is in Congress. We get to kick the can down the road and continue to see the debt roll over and grow. We don't have a choice. Okay, we have to pass it in spite of us. How it gets passed and what we see in our community how we shape and mold our community, well, that depends upon us. And I'm proud to say that every single year, you've seen something like this, which is a trial budget, and you wait and see when we actually adopt the budget, it's going to look a little bit different. And it's because your fingerprints will be on it. It's because of the comments that we hear today, the comments we heard last night, and the comments we will hear after and at every budget hearing, not just in person, but phone calls and emails to our offices. We hope you can see your fingerprints on this final budget. So you could be anywhere today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for literally helping to shape and mold our city. And welcome to, I'm biased, but truly one of the best senior centers we have in the entire city. So that said, I want to invite our Vice Mayor. I know better than to say that this is the senior center in District 5, and technically it is, but it's Thelda Senior Center. We all know Thelda really fought to make this place happen, and we're lucky to have the Vice Mayor with us. That said, let's give a round of applause to Vice Mayor Helen.
Thank you, President. I want to thank all of you for being here. City staff, I know Chris Howlett didn't get mentioned, but he's head of neighborhood services. And I know many of you have had a lot of interaction with his department. We not only have city staff, but we have a lot of people from block watches here. And I think that's what makes the city great, is the fact that we have community involvement. We have people taking care of their neighborhoods, helping with the city projects, and getting involved. And you make all the difference. As the councilman said, you make a difference in what the budget is, but you make a difference every day. And it's teamwork with the city and our residents. And so I'm very proud to be part of the city council and represent an area, because, no offense, sir, but Northwest Phoenix is one of the best districts in the city. And it slops down to this center. But again, thank you for being here, and you make a difference, believe that. There's never been a budget presented that after the budget hearings, and we've heard from all of you, changes get made. So you have an influence, you have the power, use it. Submit your cards, get online, but let us, or you can contact my office and let us know what's important and what you think our priorities be. I will tell you that city manager and the mayor and the council, but especially the city departments, worked very hard to save money this past year. It was projected we could have a $40 to $60 million deficit right now, and because of their hard work, their savings, and the city manager working to streamline departments, we do have a small surplus, but it's up to you to tell us what's the top priority or top two priorities and how that surplus should be spent. So again, thank you for being here, and I will turn it over to Ed.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Councilman and Mayor, for those words of opening. Thank you for recognizing our great staff who are here. I want to thank them also for making it a priority to be in the community, to listen to what people have to say. Yes.
Well, Brandy Barrett is here as well. Thank you so much. No, it's important. I knew that once we start, there's so many people here that live in the community, that work in the community. I'm sorry, Chris, but what it's worth, I had your names on the paper. I just can't read my own handwriting. In my defense.
Before we go any farther, I want to do one housekeeping thing, and I'll ask our interpreter to introduce herself. If there anyone needs Spanish language assistance.
My name is Maria Garcia. I'm a Spanish interpreter. Mi nombre es María Elena García. Si hay alguna persona aquí que necesita los servicios de un intérprete, por favor, me lo deja saber. Gracias.
Thank you. So just some housekeeping before we get to the video. If you would like to speak, we'd invite you to fill out a speaker card so we have an order in which to call you up. We have 11 of them up here with the Vice Mayor, so if there are more, please fill those out. We ask you also pick up a budget pamphlet. It's in English or Spanish, and that gives much more detail than we can ever give in a video, or that you'd ever want us to give in a video. And then we're here to listen to you. So without any further ado, We will go to the video. Afterwards, we will call your name to speak. We'll ask you to speak from up here into the microphone. Not to be too formal, but it helps because we're recording this for Phoenix TV, Channel 11, and our YouTube channel. It gets posted there, so it's available anytime for anybody to see. And we do take minutes of the meetings so that those written minutes are distributed to all the council members, since not all council members can be at all meetings. For example, tonight we're going to have 3 meetings at the same time. So in order for the council members to know what's going on, they get a written report of what's happening. So we're recording your comments in many ways so that they're available to everyone. With that, we'll go to the short video and then we'll hear from you. Thanks so much.
And now, the City of Phoenix 2018-2019 trial budget. Last year, we projected a potential budget deficit for 2018-19, more expenses than revenue, as high as $60 million. Thanks to strong leadership from the mayor and city council, we took early action, and now we have a balanced budget. Here's what we did. Last September, the city council voted to reduce overhead expenses. The council also acted on a new state law that allowed us to spread our public safety pension payments over 25 years instead of 20 years. The city also held the line on spending, giving us a surplus fund balance to start the year. And a healthy economy kept revenues on target. All this led to a 5-year forecast with our budget in balance. Now the trial budget starts with basically the same pie as last year, continuing our core services. In the general fund and dedicated revenue funds, this includes hiring firefighters and police officers, providing funding for parks, streets, transit, libraries, senior centers, youth services, arts and culture, and neighborhood services. We also have funds to replace aging vehicles, especially police cars and fire equipment, repair buildings and facilities, and keep our computer systems up to date. And with some of the savings from last year, we funded a police and fire pension reserve fund to help pay any unexpected future changes in their pension costs. The trial budget includes $2.7 million in proposed enterprise and special revenue fund additions to keep pace with growth and workload demands, as well as $2.9 million in additional general funds to allocate for community services. The general fund provides support for basic services across the city, like police and fire staffing, park and library operations, and programs for youth and seniors. Let's walk through each area. First, the general fund. Public safety has the highest priority in our budget, with over 70% of our general fund going to police, fire, prosecutors, court system, and emergency management. In the trial budget, the proposal is speed up processing of the more than 77,000 police public records requests received each year by reallocating current resources. In addition, the police department will add resources for crime scene investigation. Adding 5 new positions will help officers locate and apprehend violent offenders possessing guns. The addition of 8 fire protection positions to support the city's building inspection program and ensure properties throughout the city comply with fire safety laws and standards. And we're budgeted to continue hiring police officers and firefighters. The trial budget includes a $6 million general fund set aside and related grant support to keep fire's filled staffing level at 1,654 positions for the next 3 years. Reducing the impacts of homelessness in Phoenix is a priority. With a nearly 60% increase in unsheltered homeless, the goal of the city is lead with services by connecting individuals experiencing homelessness with appropriate services while reducing the impact on Phoenix neighborhoods. The PHX Cares Community Action, Response, Engagement Services Initiative saw more than 1,000 calls for outreach and engagement in the first 3 months. As part of the new PHX Cares initiative, the proposed budget provides for additions across human services, neighborhood services, and parks and recreation, including the addition of 2 more contracted homeless outreach teams to increase the city's caseload capacity by 360 clients per year, and continuing to lead with services. Parks and Recreation will add 2 ranger positions to provide direct outreach to people needing services in the city's urban park system. This brings our total number of rangers to 79, adding 2 positions to coordinate client service referrals, improve response times, and ensure coordination of efforts by all city departments to address code violations that arise from encampments. Phoenix continues its investment in neighborhood livability in this year's proposed budget with these proposed additions. Add 5 enforcement staff in the Neighborhood Services Department for a new sober living home licensing program. The purpose of this program is to enhance the health, safety, and welfare of residents of structured sober living homes and the surrounding community by establishing standards and regulations for the homes and their operators. As part of program administration, the City Clerk Department also will add 2 licensing positions to process and oversee applications funded through licensing fees. Increasing shade and replacing trees citywide with $450,000 to plant 750 trees annually and provide water and maintenance for them to thrive. This is also part of the city's Tree and Shade Master Plan. Additionally, the Office of Arts and Culture is proposed to receive an additional $30,000 in funds to increase grant funding for Phoenix arts and culture organizations to pre-recession levels. There is also funding for a project manager tasked with developing a Latino cultural center in the city of Phoenix, and for our libraries, continuing to restore hours for the community. This proposal makes Sunday hours permanent at 4 libraries: Yucca, Century, Harmon, and Ocotillo. Lastly, the budget provides for funding to support outreach for the 2020 census to make sure all residents participate and get counted, and the staff needed to oversee the city's involvement with the census count. Now for the non-general fund piece of the pie. Remember, this funding comes from dedicated fees and charges to customers, like development fees from companies that must pay for construction-related services provided by the city. The Planning and Development Department will use this revenue to add 18 positions, handling everything from plan review and site inspections to mapping, long-term planning, and more frontline staff for customer service assistance. Additionally, the Street Transportation Department will use special revenue funds to add 30 positions at a cost of $859,000 to improve our streets and support the paving maintenance and traffic improvements, as well as traffic signal electricians, Transportation 2050 related bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure development and maintenance, and employees to oversee the city's pavement plan, street sweeping, and proper implementation of Americans with Disabilities Act required projects. Altogether, these pieces of the pie do more than describe the work our city departments will do in the coming year. They tell the story of Phoenix's continued growth to be the 5th largest city in the country, with a diverse and thriving economy and a community that's in demand as a great place to live, work, and play. Thanks for taking the time to learn about the 2018-19 City of Phoenix trial budget. And please don't forget, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meetings or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for participating in this important process.
We have another card? Okay. Make sure if you want to speak, you fill out a white card because we want to hear from everybody. We have 3 minutes per speaker. City manager is going to keep the time. And Steve Lesto, you're the first. Come on up to the podium.
Okay, there's a new catchword in the national dialogue, and that's merit-based. I'd like to see merit-based funding for the city departments where you get rewarded for success, and if you're not doing so well, you get a cut, and then the money is used for private contractors to fill where your failures are. I think Mr. Zerka agrees that that should be part of the equation. And I won't embarrass any departments here by mentioning names, but there has to be accountability for what you've accomplished if you're going to receive funding. Some departments in the city feel that it's beneath them to have to answer to how their money is used. So I won't say any more than that. I just wanted to get that on record.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Aaronsberger?
More broccoli, more. You're advocating for more broccoli?
First off, I just want to say those videos are outstanding. So who put the effort into building those were very informative, and I'm appreciative to get the information myself. My name's Aaron Ernsberger. I've been a Phoenix firefighter now for almost 20 years. I feel very charmed and blessed to say that I work in the city of Phoenix. I work around some of the greatest individuals and all the departments up here. What's really unique and ironic is everything in here is important, right? And all of our citizens need that stuff. So what we are asking is that you understand, that the public understands that as firefighters, we have constantly championed and pounded the drum of doing more with less. The bottom line is we get a little, we take it a little bit personal that we're trying to do our best, but we're running 50,000 more calls a year than we have been. We're dramatically understaffed. Stations that the public deserves are, there's several holes in our system, so to speak, that really need the attention of having the services there for the public. So again, just on behalf of the public of what you all deserve, and to understand that some of the systems that we've used within the city are kind of antiquated at this point, and that determines the level of staffing that is needed, that is responsible for fulfilling the demands of your needs on a day-to-day basis. So again, thank you very much for having me. At the end of the day, we live in my humble opinion, the best city in the world. We work around some of the best people, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Malarkey?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Terry Malarkey. I'm treasurer at the Anthem Community Council. We represent, for the city of Phoenix, over 10,000 residents in North Phoenix. And specifically for the budget, we, like Aaron mentioned, we are very happy with the budget for public safety, both for police and for fire, specifically the fire station at I-17 and Jomax. We have invited and have had Chief Williams up in our community before, and we've made a specific request to her that we need additional police support in Anthem. Certainly in the 5-year capital improvement plan, I don't see any future police stations in North Phoenix. Would love to see that in the 5-year plan. And then secondly, in the 5-year plan, we know from Vice Mayor Williams that there is significant development going on in North Phoenix in your district, and we would love to see additional open space and Phoenix parks in the area. From an Anthem treasurer standpoint, I understand completely about balanced budgets and healthy financials. And fortunately, in the community of Anthem, we are very healthy. We invested over $3 million in a park that resides in the city of Phoenix a couple of years ago. Beautiful park. It's reserved for our residents, though, and we would love to see additional parks in the area as the development occurs in North Phoenix. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Greg Turpin?
Mayor, Councilman, Vice Mayor, Mr. Zerker. I'm here to talk about homelessness. Can you hear me? I'm here to talk about homelessness. Homelessness, people on the street are bad it's bad for the individual, it's bad for our neighborhoods, and it's bad for our community. I'd just like to set the table a second about what I think is an increasing crisis in our city. Street homelessness has tripled in the last 5 years. It's gone up by 25% a year for the last 5 years. Shelter beds, come September of this year, will be down 27% in the Maricopa County area. That's 382 beds. Cass currently, just so you know, has 470 beds. The overflow shelter, which is going to be closing, has 250 beds. And then there's another 130 beds or so that, well, there are 130 beds that have gone away up to now, and then we've got the overshell. I think we sort of know what to do about homelessness. Number one, the outreach program that the city's doing. Phoenix Cares is important. It's a creative program. It's a step in the right direction, and engaging people who are on the street is critical. I will tell you that I personally believe that people who are on the street need to believe that they are better, safer, and getting services down at the campus than they are living in the oleanders somewhere. I think I think that's very important, that frankly, that they be a little more uncomfortable living in oleanders than they are going down to the shelter. So outreach is important. Shelter, outreach is well funded. You've done a great job in funding that. Shelter, a little less funded, and that's what I'm here to talk about. Third is affordable housing. I would be remiss if I didn't say we are going to look back in 5 years and we're going to say, what the heck were we thinking? Why didn't we do something about it when we had a chance? Just to run back to shelter a little bit, I just want to give you a few numbers. We see 5,000 unduplicated people in a year. That's unduplicated. We don't see them again in a year. Casework, case management ratio, which is what I'm really here to talk about. The national standard is 30-1. Our ratio is 47-1. Let me tell you what will happen if we have better case management. We'll lower length of stay. That will mean that those 300 beds will be made up in some portion by better case management, because it lowers the length of stay. We are right now only able to serve 35% of the people who qualify for case management. That's not of the 5,000. 35% of the people who come in have either longer lengths of stay, who have greater vulnerability, who are more able and capable to serve. We only can serve 35% of those people, and we have an 85% positive outcome, known outcome with those people that we do case manage, so we can lower our length of stay, free up beds. The outreach program needs a place to take people. If the outreach people succeeds in grabbing somebody and convincing them they need to come down for services, they need to get services, we need to have beds to do that. I probably don't need to tell you that fire department, emergency rooms, police department all spend a significant amount of time dealing with homelessness, and I think we can help them to free up some time if we have the opportunity to provide beds and services. I don't want to just talk about beds. This isn't just about shelter. It's very much about meeting people where they are and addressing their needs so that they don't return to homelessness. I can pretty much stop there. I can tell you that a bed at Cass, if you want to get people off the streets, get them, we need to clean up our immediate area, and it needs to be a safe area that people want to go. And number two, if you want to clean up the streets, they need a bed at Cass. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue Soto?
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor, Manager, Vice Mayor, and Councilman for this opportunity. I will be speaking about library hours. My name is Sue Soto, and I'm a longtime volunteer at Choya Library in District 1. I also serve as president of the Friends of the Phoenix Public Library. The Friends raise funds each year to pay for hundreds of library programs and services at every library branch in the city. I appreciate the decision to make the temporary Sunday afternoon hours at 4 libraries permanent in the trial budget. This will really help Yucca Library in District 5, which has absorbed most of the customers that would otherwise be going to the closed Burton Bar location. However, our system-wide library hours still remain lower than they were 10 years ago and lower than other major library systems similar to Phoenix. Unfortunately, in District 1, Agave Library will remain closed 2 days in a row, Sundays and Mondays, and Choya will still be closed every Friday. In District 5, Yucca Library will remain closed every Monday, and Palo Verde Library will remain closed every Friday. In fact, half of the city libraries are closed on Sundays, Mondays, and Fridays. These closures represent a significant lost opportunity. The Friends of the Phoenix Public Library provide free programs and services to thousands of people every year, but we cannot do so if the library is closed. We ask that you work with us to open every library every day. Our private dollars can support programs and services if public dollars can keep the buildings open. Thank you again for the additional funds this year, and we look forward to seeing our libraries open at the levels they were 10 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Frank Steinman?
Good morning. I was kind of surprised when I printed off the budget this year again. Our police department, as we all know, is understaffed, has been understaffed, and yet we are going to go and spend more or almost as many dollars on homeless people or homeless projects care without seeing any of the statistics of what's been happening since CARE was implemented. This isn't a brand new program. This has been going on for several months. I have not seen, nor have I heard, of how many people that have been processed have stayed in the program versus saying, hey, the heck with you, I'm going back on the street. Our police officers at precinct have done an outstanding job of trying to clean up the neighborhoods from the VIP program down here, which took a lot of funds from a lot of the other block watches, or resources, not funds, I'm sorry, resources from other block watch areas, and moved what used to be down here north. The commander and I are friends over this topic, but they take people, they arrest them for violations, take them downtown, they take people, try to get them on programs, and what happens? The next day, they're back out. These people do not want help in some cases, and I think in many cases, they prefer to be homeless. I'd like to see some stats before spending this money, taking the money away from the police and fire departments. Let's go and get some stats first on where we're spending it. Take this fine facility here. When this was built, if none of us old people came here, would the city spend the dollars? Ed's not going to spend the dollars to keep it open. So why are we spending the dollars to try to take care of people who don't want the dollars? We're spending money, proposed money, to help people who don't want the help. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Reiner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Vice Mayor, and Mr. Councilman, and Mr. Zucker. My name is Donna Reiner. I am the president of the Friends of Phoenix Public Art, which is similar to the Friends of Phoenix Public Library. And we want to thank you initially for all the council support for the arts. It's really important. It helps beautify our city, and there are many people who do come to Phoenix to see the arts and culture here. However, I need to stress that while there's been additional money being applied to the grants, there is no additional increase for the public art maintenance, which is in desperate need. And I can say, for instance, in District 5, we have two priority projects of the 9 current public arts, which would require approximately $5,700 to take care of the needed maintenance. In District 1, which also has 9 public art pieces. There is one, it's 27 years old, and it requires an estimated cost of $15,000. And this also happens to be in the Choya Branch Library, so that means there are hundreds and thousands of people seeing that particular public art piece, which right at the moment is not functioning. So we know that the council has given additional money in the past 2 years, and we're thrilled to death. Last year, we got additional $10,000. It was up to $84,000. Our minor ask is an additional $16,000, which would bring a total up to $100,000. Now, this is the minimum, bare minimum necessary to take care of the annual prioritized needs of the city's public art. The actual cost based for this year's projection is $234,000. So we're asking, just let's bring it up to $100,000. The Friends is a nonprofit. It's young, and we're focusing on assisting the Office of Arts and Culture in the maintenance of the public art, and also our nationally recognized treasures, which are on display at the gallery at City Hall. The Friends have operated this at no cost to the city for the past 6 years, providing all the funds for mounting exhibits, which the current exhibit is the art from Burton Bar, which if you haven't been there, you really should check it out. And so we're doing that. It's that private dollars helping the city with the public dollars. It's the best we can do in that cooperation, and we hope that you would consider an additional $16,000 to make the budget for the public maintenance $100,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Casey Whitehead?
Hello and good morning. Thanks for having me here, and thank you for being here as well, all of you. My name is Casey. I work at the Andre House of Hospitality. We are in downtown, located on 11th Avenue in Jackson, and what we do is we provide day services for people experiencing homelessness and extreme poverty. So it's not just people who are out on the street, but it's people who are at CAS, as Craig said, or it's people who have housing, but they're unable to provide total support for themselves in that housing. I'm here to talk about Phoenix Cares. So with Phoenix Cares, the program, how it works is there's currently about 7 teams who come around town, and they're supposed to provide initial contact with people, and then provide services. So it's like, hello, you are experiencing homelessness. Here are some services. Have you heard of CAS? Have you heard of this place? Have you heard of that? That is good that we are helping people, and it is a step in the right direction, and I agree with that. I believe, and I'm here to advocate for people who are the most vulnerable. So the most vulnerable in our city are the people not just experiencing homelessness, but within that, it is the people who are medically fragile, who are unable to control their bowel movements. It is the people who are in a wheelchair and they're not able to access CAS. It is the people who are mentally ill and they're unable to provide for themselves or be mentally with it, as I say, to understand what they need and what they don't need. To give an example, there was a man at dinner a few nights ago, and I don't know his name, but I see him around often, and sometimes we're able to have conversations, but people came to me in the dining room during dinner and they said, Casey, like, there's this man hitting himself. And I was like, okay, like, let's go figure out what that is. So I go to the dining room, and there's this man, he's just hitting himself in the face. He's so not mentally well. And it hurts to see other people have to hurt themselves, and to know that Phoenix Cares does not come to 11th Avenue in Jackson. Phoenix Cares does not come to take care of the medically fragile, the mentally ill, the people who are not able to care for themselves. There needs to be a different response. So Phoenix Cares does not provide that support for this area, and this is the area where there are people who are chronically homeless. People need love, people need support, they need more than what they're given now. I know in the video there was a saying that said, we need to make Phoenix a place to live, work, and play. And I think we need to make Phoenix a place to live, first of all, and work and play for not just some members of our community, but everyone. There's people who are on the street who, after 7 p.m., do not have bathroom access for 12 hours. There are 240 people on the street each night who do not have bathroom access, who are unable to find services. There are people who don't have a home. I can't just explain that enough. We need to put money, I don't think necessarily into Phoenix Cares, which only helps people who are, to put it simply, like housing ready to jump into housing. We need consistent care for people who are unable to provide it for themselves. Just to put that example is we need consistent and sustainable support. So not just the one-time contact, which Phoenix Cares provides, but we need to be able to have that consistent and sustainable contact and have more case management to be able to find housing, but then also to be able to keep up with people and make sure they're doing okay and they are taking their medicine and they do have people making sure they go to their doctor's appointments and they just have all the basic needs that people need to live each day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Ana Chavez?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having us here. I am a co-worker of Casey's. I also work at the Andre House, and just to give you a background, we are called the House of Hospitality. We are located on 11th Avenue in Jackson and 213 South 11th Avenue in downtown Phoenix. And we provide what some people would call dignity services to people that are living in poverty and homelessness. We give them showers with the actual doors closed, not a dormitory style shower that I know a lot of shelters have. We provide them clothes, we provide them a hot meal, and we interact with these people every single day for 12 hours a day. It's not just a 9-to-5 job, it's a way of living. And I say this because I don't have stats for you. I only have my anecdotal evidence, and I really hope that that's enough. And if it's not, I really, really encourage every single person in this room and every single person sitting on this table to my right to come down to Andre House and see what we're experiencing. The zone is basically between 15th Avenue and 9th Avenue. And it is a place where over 240 people live on the streets. And even though there's beds for them at Cass, there's not enough beds. And there's an overflow shelter right across the street from us that has 250 beds. And that's going to close down in September. So it's going to start to cut down on beds in April 9th. And people haven't even been notified. And I understand that even though it's not funded by the city, those people are still citizens of the city of Phoenix, and they still need a solution. So even though Phoenix Cares is a great initiative, and like my coworker Casey said, it's a great step in the right direction, people still need to be followed up. There was a case that there was a guest, and we call the people who come to our organization guests because we are a house of hospitality. There was a guest who showed up, and he had severe disabilities, severe mental and physical issues. And even though he was covered by a lot of the services that Phoenix offers, because Phoenix does have a lot of services, he was not mentally capable of following up on those services. And there needs to be more case management, because even though people get pointed in the right direction, there's not enough case management to help all of these people. And starting in April 9th all the way to September, there's going to be an increase of people on the streets, and there are not enough people to help out these human beings. I really, really, really want to encourage you all to come down to Andre House. Our dinner's free, and it's really good, and we prepare it with love. So please come down, and I want you to guys see the faces behind the word homelessness, because the word just gives you guys a stigma, and it's an ugly stigma. And every single person down there is loved. Every human being has a brother, has a sister. They had a mother, they had a father. They're not just a statistic. So please come down there and see what we're talking about. Thanks.
Thank you. Eva Shadafer? I probably mispronounced that. I did. I thought so. Did I get the Edith right?
Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to speak. and I thank you all for being here today. By the way, the broccoli at lunch is really good. Can we get that more often instead of the pea and carrot combo? I'm talking here today. I am a member here at Helen Senior Center, and I have the privilege of serving here at the Senior Center as the president of our advisory board. Some of the concerns that we have as members here is what type of funding will we be having available for programs, activities? Is there a possibility of changing who our caterer is that brings the meals? The reason we're asking that is some of the meals are very delicious, and I know we're on a tight budget and they do a lot with the small amount they have. But some of them tend to be kind of a little heavy on the grease, the gravies, things like that. Maybe some more salads and a little more nutrition in there might be a great idea. But really we're looking to find out what type of funding will be available. I am a disabled vet, and part of my rehab was when I came here. When I came here, I was a very unhappy person, very depressed, very sad. It was through the love and kindness at this center by the people that come here that I was able to kind of turn things around and serve right now as the president of our advisory board. And in that capacity, I ask, will you please consider funding for the activities? You know, those of us who come here, this is a very important part of our day. For some of our members, this is a chance to stay cool, to be engaged with individuals, to have physical activity ranging from being able to dance and do Zumba and flamenco dancing to doing chair exercises. But we can't continue to have those programs if we don't have money to pay for instructors and other things. So please consider our needs when you are considering the budget. And thank you very much for this time.
Thank you. Eva Olivas?
I have my list.
We've done this before.
Yeah. Good morning, Mayor, Council Woman Williams, and Councilman Gomez. Well, I really appreciate your listening to us. I have a couple comments. One is I do not support the expansion of positions in the Human Services Department for caseworkers primarily because I feel that the homeless issue right now is a focus for every nonprofit foundation that there is. I believe that there are other resources available to provide or to fund these positions, and I strongly feel that they need to be funded. I just don't feel they need to be funded through the general fund through the City of Phoenix. I'm very, very supportive of additional support for the police department, for the fire department, for public works, for neighborhood services, and for the Parks and Recreation Department. And I do not see in the budget things that are specifically there that will help them do what they're being demanded of right now better. For example, in the police department, I do not see any additional training, and yet we're asking them to be social service providers on site. So there's no training in there for any of these departments that would help them do what they're being asked to do. The impact of the neighborhoods, everything that is being impacted in neighborhoods is being serviced by those departments, not by Human Services. Yet there's not enough in there to provide those services. Even the Phoenix Cares, when it launched, was a great idea, but it hasn't been as effective as it could be had they had additional support. And I know the city had to be somewhat aware of just the amount of demand that was going to be placed on it, but I just don't feel like it's just quite there. So I don't see those things in there. With regards to housing, I totally support housing for affordable housing, both for low-income families and for veterans and for the homeless. However, I do not support them being specifically at Cass in the downtown area, which has been overwhelmed with the population itself. I do feel that they need to be scattered sites. I do feel that every section of the city has the responsibility, as we have been, to take care of vulnerable populations, but we also have our neighborhoods are in trouble.
Our kids cannot experience a childhood like we did. We can't walk down our streets, we want nice, safe homes for everybody, including the homeless and the veterans. But right now, talk about somebody not having a restroom for 12 hours, but that restroom for them becomes my dad's backyard. So we have got to invest more money in supporting the impact of the homeless at the same time while we're supporting the needs of the homeless. So I can't say strong enough how I feel that they're underfunded, every one of those departments. The park rangers, I can tell you, have been amazing. We love them, support them. In fact, instead of doing 2, we would like to see 10 more positions. So I'm very grateful that you are listening, and thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Spellman.
Good morning, Mayor, council members, city staff, residents. I'm Jeff Spellman, and I'm here representing a couple of different neighborhood advocacy groups. I live across the street just south of Northern Avenue, and I'm very pleased as a neighborhood advocate to see what limited supplemental funds are available being focused on neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods are hurting very badly. And so really pleased to see that focus on their public safety, homelessness, neighborhoods, trees and shade. Those things are all really, really important to us. So I think you've done a really good job with that. I'm here with Take Action Phoenix. Take Action Phoenix is the group that's worked now for more than a year with city staff, council members, and the mayor to come up with the program, the new zoning ordinances and the licensing program to regulate sober living homes, the impacts that they have on our neighborhoods for the people who are living in them in unregulated, uncontrolled situations, and the negative impacts they have on our neighborhoods. So we support the positions that you've proposed in there for the city clerk department and for the neighborhood services department to implement those programs, and thank you for that. Secondly, I'm also here with the Violence Impact Project Coalition, and somebody spoke about the VIP. That was a city-run program for about a year. Meetings were held right here in the Helen Drake Center, focused on crime, prostitution, drug dealing along 27th Avenue. That program is now being operated by neighborhoods, volunteer neighborhoods, to keep that effort going. And we've identified our continuing #1 priority as safety and homeless. It's not a surprise. So with that, there's some really good things in the budget for homeless, and there's some things that we have concerns about. #1, you said that the whole focus was to reduce the impact on neighborhoods through this program. Some things do that, some things don't. I do not support the additional funding for CBI, for community outreach workers. I don't support that at all. After 6 to 8 contacts, CBI only gets 1 in 10 into permanent housing. Frank, I've got your stats for you. That's not an effective program. That's a program that's 90% ineffective, okay? While the trash, needles, and human waste pile up in our neighborhoods, that's what's happening. That's the impact. We're not reducing the impact on neighborhoods right now. When this program was pitched as the city's solution to homeless, we were told that those who do not accept services would not be allowed to continue trespassing or stay in areas where they're not allowed. Craig Tripkin says he wants people to be more uncomfortable in the street than in the shelter. Right now, they're more comfortable on the street because people give them handouts all over the place, and the police tell us it's 99% drug addiction, mental health, or a combination of both. We're not getting at it in the 6 to 8 touches. So do not give one more penny to CBI until they figure out a better way to do that program. I do support the additional park rangers. In fact, this is one area that is actually working effectively and collaboratively to lead with services alongside CBI. What we see them doing is going out in combination with CBI, park rangers, and police, contacting people in those parks, offering the services. If they don't take the services, they make it uncomfortable. They address the criminal elements that are going on at the time. So that is working. Support the additional park rangers. I do support the additional positions for neighborhood services. They are overwhelmed with the calls coming in from neighborhoods to deal with that, and they need additional resources to support the Phoenix Cares program. So take that money from CBI and give it to support additional positions for one thing I don't see identified in here at all is Public Works. That's the department that has to go up and clean up the fountains of trash, the hazardous material, and it's not getting done. That program is the total bottleneck in this system. There's shopping carts full of hazardous waste all over my neighborhood. It takes weeks to get them picked up, and it's because Public Works can't get to them. So give that money to a department that needs it to help expedite that part of the problem. Right now, our police officers, to cut through that bureaucracy that isn't working, they're getting trucks and trailers and going out and doing it themselves. I don't want to see our cops having to clean up hazardous waste and this stuff left behind. Public Works is the department that should be doing it. Give that money to them so that the police can do the more important things. So with that, I appreciate your support for neighborhoods, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeff, for that testimony. Tony Mottola is going to take my place. He's my chief of staff. I have to sneak out for a meeting. We had a lot of testimony here today, a little longer than I scheduled. Thank you.
And we're still going. Pam Fitzgerald?
I really don't need to talk because Mr. Spellman said exactly what I was going to say, so just put dittos.
Okay, very good. Got that? Ditto. Jason Wright?
First of all, good morning. Thanks for having these meetings. Really appreciate being able to come out and hear everyone's opinions. Like she said, my name's Jason Wright. I work for the Phoenix Fire Department. I've been on for about 12 years. Currently work up at Station 36. I kind of want to just reiterate what Aaron Ernsberger said earlier, that we're understaffed by about 138 firefighters right now and 5 trucks. Because of that understaffing, we've been short, and we've been running more calls with less trucks and less firefighters. To overcome that, over the last 10 years, we've had to kind of move trucks around. We've had to take trucks from busier stations and send them to outer-lying areas that had no coverage. This kind of has a domino effect where it reduces response times in all the areas. The busier areas that had multiple trucks there to cover the higher call volumes, they now only have 1 truck there, and so that truck, when that truck's out, the next closest truck has to fill in. The outerlying areas, we've run out of trucks to put in these outerlying areas. The main reason I wanted to talk was because just recently I had a personal experience with these slower response times. We had a house fire about a week ago or so. Some of you guys might have seen it on the news. It gained some attention for having a 9-minute response time in the middle of the night. And I'm sure, as all you would feel, that a 9-minute response time is unacceptable in a situation like that. So my main reason for being here is just to ask you guys to provide funding to hire the 138 firefighters that we're short, and provide the 5 new fire trucks that we need as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Emma Jean Dolan?
Good morning. My name is Imogene Dolan, and Jeff, of course, already pretty much said everything that I was going to say. First of all, my byline for years has been Phoenix is my hometown, and so I approach everything from that hometown feeling of we're working together to make our community the best that can be. That being said, I'm extremely concerned about the police department. We have, I think, one of the very best police departments in the entire country, and it is just a great department. Thank you, Chief. However, you know, we have the homeless, the Phoenix Cares, and I appreciate that program somewhat. But our residents are having longer response times because they are dealing with some of these other issues. I talked to our community action officer, and there are sometimes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, how many times that they are responding and talking to these homeless individuals and trying to get them help. In the meantime, our residents are calling and saying, hey, you know, I've got somebody walking in my alley, I've got a concern, I've got, you know, I just was broken into, and the response time is not there. And so, yes, I am concerned about the homeless, I'm concerned, but we are not gaining any police officers. Everything is through attrition. I mean, they're falling off the books as faster than we can even replace them. And so I am very concerned that we have so much money going to services for people who are not even paying taxes, and the ones that are paying taxes, the ones that are really holding our neighborhoods together, we're out here advocating every day. I am a community leader. I get so many phone calls from people. Check next door. Half of the crime that is being committed is not even being reported because they're saying no reason to. I'm not going to get a response anyway. So I'm very concerned about there's no additional police officers, but yet we're spending, we have $726,000 that is being really put into these other programs. I am extremely happy about the sober living, the funding for that. Our neighborhood is being inundated with sober living homes, and while we support, you know, people back on their trip to their journey to recovery, we are concerned that they are not being regulated, that they are not licensed, and that people are not necessarily even receiving the care that they need. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure, just to make it clear about police, I'm Gene.
Yes.
Phoenix Police Department was at a low of about 2,700 officers a couple years ago. Right now, we're at 2,940 police officers, and we're authorized, we have money to hire to get to 3,125. So we are hiring above and beyond attrition, but we always want to make a plug for young people who are interested in career and service to go to phoenix.gov/police and find out how to become a police officer, because one of the things we were looking for is more candidates to be a Phoenix police officer. It's a hard job, as people here have said. It takes a lot of skill, it takes a lot of education and learning, and so if you know young people who are committed to that, please send them the way of our police officer, because we have room to hire 185 more police officers, and we're keeping our classes full, but we're looking for them, so thank you.
I'm not going to recommend my son or daughter for that position, but they work very hard, the police officers. Thank you.
Thanks for recognizing.
We only have one more card, so I want to give you an opportunity to fill out a card if you still want to speak, because Dorothy Ward, you're the last one we have.
Thank you, council members, for the opportunity to have input. Homelessness is extremely important to me, and I'm glad for money spent in this area. However, trees are important for the health of the people in Phoenix. I support the planning and the planting of 750 trees and getting them planted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Don't be shy. Okay. Oh, Pam? Oh, ditto. She's ditto. Yeah. He's taking special care.
I waited all day.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming and participating. Oh, she's going to come.
Like I said, Jeff Spellman said pretty much everything I wanted to say, but I wanted to give profound thanks to Councilman Valenzuela, Councilwoman Thelda Williams, Councilwoman Pastor, and Stark. Those were the people that really helped us take Action Phoenix with the group home issue, with the structured sober living issue. We've worked almost 2 years on that, with planning, with neighborhood services, with the mayor. So I have to say it's been a majorly huge event in my life, and all of us on tap, but we've come to the point where on April 18th, we're going to vote this in. And so again, instead of complaining for once, I am here to say a big, huge thank you.
Thank you for all that you did and support and guidance. It wouldn't have happened without all of you. And I will turn this over.
I'll just say thank you. Thank you so much for speaking up. Now, these budget hearings are all recorded. You'll find them online. There are a lot of people who are working right now or they're in school and they couldn't be here. And tonight, that'll be the case again. We have a large city, so it's important to remind our neighbors who could not be here, let them know that it is budget season. It is a good idea to send their council member an email or a phone call, but not just your sitting council person. You may as well send it to the entire council, to the mayor, to the city manager. This is incredibly important. We look forward to passing a budget that everyone will be proud of. So thank you for your time. God bless.
Thank you again for coming, and hopefully we'll see you at another budget hearing.